Good morning, Scott. This is Trent Richards, and I'm just making you a brief video to show you a couple of the things that you were most interested in. I think you enumerated those with my colleague Dave. You'd mentioned data exchange was important, entering of information, QR capability, and reporting. So I'm just going to kind of briefly talk about those in the context of our tool to show you how RedList would handle some of those things. So I'm going to log in. And when I log in, it brings up a left-hand navigation window. Most of what your people will see are going to be these quick links. This would be basically your preventative maintenance team folks, or lubrication engineers, or even some of your operators that may be involved with the tool capturing data. They're going to see these quick view links. Administratively, you get to see these other links, which are where kind of you build your environment. So, for instance, in the admin page, you load all your assets, your components, your asset groups. You load your people and your users, your vendors, even some company information that could be with costing information. This is where you actually have the QR code generator. So if I click on this, this is a demo account, so we have a lot of kind of bogus information in here, so it may or may not be relevant, but I can load QR codes for all the various assets within the company. We recommend printing this out on vinyl, which is, it doesn't fade or weather check like other materials might. And we even have some people that will put these on a tag, hang them from a rear view mirror of a vehicle. There's a lot of things you can do. We also have tag in lockout capabilities with locations. So if you want to do that sort of thing, then we could do that with QR codes as well. So that's kind of speaks to the QR code. In terms of data exchange, if you go to our reliability suite, and I haven't introduced all these suites, but let me actually talk about data input first of all, entering of information. This is best done on our forms, and I have 3 menus in the form submenu. I'm going to go to the submit, which is where it brings up all the forms that we have created. I like this form here because it's got this hydraulic inspection form because it's got some visual aids in it. But essentially, when we've loaded this is a list of assets in the organization. So when we created this form, we're able to reference things that we've loaded from the admin functions with people or assets. You pick an asset, and we have the ability to have big, fat finger friendly yes no questions or pass fail questions. We have the ability to record input data, and really the genius of our tool is the fact that we actually, if you fail something and you need to create a work order, you can do that, and it will actually interface with the people that are directly responsible for that for this particular asset. And you can set that up as an alias that goes to multiple people, or you can set it up so that it goes to a specific person, whichever you choose. Then we also have, again, some visual aids, like perhaps new employees may not know what a common hose issue might be in terms of abrasion or cracked hose, so they can actually see from a pictorial diagram what that might look like. Anyway, they can ultimately pass these things and then sign the document and send it out and submit it. So all those forms are created. Once they're created from the submission window, they're actually go to a big repository where you can actually look up those files. So for instance, if I want to look at the hydraulic inspection for the past, let's say 365 days, of course you can grab a time window. Then we have all of this data available to you that you can look at the pass fail of these inspections for the past several days, months, weeks, years. Ultimately, if you want to click on any one of these little icons to the left, it'll bring up even a PDF printout of that particular inspection. So that's how we capture the data. And real quickly on that same forms window, and I'm not going to go into an exhaustive detail about how we do that, but there are some, and this does have kind of reference to how data is exchanged. So on this, I'm going to go to the create menu, and this is where we actually author that form. But I'm going to just show you some of the logic that exists. So for instance, on that question that I had the return filter question. This is the one that I failed. If I edit this question, you can see some of the logic that we've created. So we have basically what we call a selection button, which is this big kind of fat finger friendly pass fail button. But we have these logic buttons as well. So you can have the logic button that says it's required. You can associate it with the asset, which is what we've done here. But this work order logic has been implemented. So if I click on this work order logic, basically it's an if-then-else statement. So if or when, and you could choose always or when or never, but when question 6, which is the question that we're talking about here, the return filter condition, is failed, then we're going to create a work order. We're going to create a work order description. It's going to be related to the hydraulic system. And then again, you can actually put the person, the directly responsible individual, or you can put an alias email for that goes to all of them in this as well. So, if you hit this box right here that allows the person to select that person, which means they type an email address. If you don't select, or if you add someone here, so for instance, let's say that I'm going to send this to Tal Wagstaff, who's our maintenance manager, then it'll go directly to their inbox, and it'll actually inform them via the app as well. So you can actually specify their lead, and then if it's normal priority or what sort of priority it is. So there's a lot of logic. There's a lot of form building tools. I mean, even Google can build forms for you, but the interplay between our where you create the data and the logic that we have built into this tool is pretty astounding and very powerful. The other thing that you wanted to talk about was reporting. So by the way, let me, for purposes of this brief demonstration, I'm going to pull up it's because of this RedList demo account, we have a lot of kind of hodgepodge data in here. It's hard to build any form reporting that's very meaningful. So I'm going to actually minimize this and just show you with a PowerPoint how our system interacts with a tool called Power BI, which is a Microsoft tool. I'm not sure if you've heard of tools like Tableau or some of these reporting functions that do a very good job both graphically and visually about how to report. But this is a couple of screenshots of the report, and I'm hoping you can see this, but you can see you can pick a time swath of a year, a quarter, a month, a week, a day, and this would be a cost history by asset. So, whatever 60-2, this asset is going to be kind of the most costly. It's got the biggest chiclet, if you will, whereas there's, this actually kind of goes to even the lowest cost assets. But it'll bring, pull up total cost, wear cost, downtime cost, labor cost, product cost, lots of data. Basically anything that you capture can be reported on. And as I mentioned in that tool, in the RedList tool, when we were in this create hydraulic inspection, one of the questions in here, for instance, sorry about that. One of the questions in here is, this pass-fail question, but let's say you wanted to get reporting on something that's, you're recording the temperature. It says this particular field actually records the temperature. If I edit that, this is a required field, but you can see that there's a reporting icon as well. So if I click this reporting icon, so visibility in the PDF when answered, and then you can actually say, from a reporting perspective, it'll actually make it visible in the PDF, but it'll also make it kick that data to our Power BI reporting as well. So lots of capabilities in the reporting function. Hopefully this is meaningful to you, but real quickly, we do have, again, the quick links tool. We have the way that another prized feature that that people really like within our environment is this idea of a quick view. And so I could pull up, for instance, I could pull up aerial view of a factory or an asset view of a particular asset, and it'll have all the points of maintenance described in that asset or aerial view. So for instance, I pulled up this asset. This is basically a chemical plant, I have these dots that indicate whether or not there's points of maintenance. When I go to the builder view, you can see that I have these tied to assets, but in the live view, only one of them is beyond its maintenance window. And if it's basically a big cooling tower series, if I click on any one of these, it'll bring up a piece of equipment that has an asset or a component that may be past its preventative maintenance window. So for instance, in this case, I pull up this pump and it's got a Falk coupling that is past due. So it is a very user-friendly tool from a management perspective to get an overall view of where those points of maintenance that are beyond their due date are occurring, and essentially as the preventative maintenance team goes and clears these dots will go away and turn to green dots, which means everything is within its maintenance window. So again, lots of good features from a visual perspective as well.